going on, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Star Chasers, Girls Talk Ball. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. Welcome back. As you guys know, it's your girl Cravin Cowboys in the building. As always, I got my girl Star next to me. How you doing tonight, sis?
What's up? What's up, everybody? Glad to be here again. As my sister said, for another episode of Star Chasers, Girls Talk Ball. It's always exciting when Mickey and I get together to discuss Cowboys football. But y'all know before we get started to please like the video, please like the show on both of our pages. Also share the content, please share the content. And also, if you're new and just now finding us, subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. That would be great. And shout out to people in the chat: Zach Owens, Filthy, Kelvin, Nisi, Lee. Glad to see you guys. I know it'll be more people in here as we get into the show.
Yeah, shout out to Lee on the Facebook group. Really, and I really appreciate you, Lee, always coming through. I know on both sides, and shout out to Rico as well, sneaking in here. I know we don't have a ton of viewers on Facebook, but I always appreciate you coming through and just being a loyal viewer to us, and appreciate everybody always showing love every Wednesday, like she said. Nisi, Kelvin, everybody coming through, showing love, and we'll just go ahead and jump right into the show. A lot of news coming out this week. Definitely unlike the 2024 off season, last season, definitely very dry, but happy to see our Cowboys making some moves. As you guys know, the big staple news piece this week is Osa Odighizuwa signed his contract, very swiftly, it seemed, Facts. Yeah, let's see some claps in the chat this evening, because it's shout out to the Cowboys, the front office doing what they're supposed to do. Shout out to my girl sis. She's definitely been staying on top of this week. It's not always conducive to applaud the front office for doing what they're supposed to do, right? But it is good to acknowledge the steps that they're making, and I love that they're I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago them taking baby steps, and it's good to see them.
Right, baby steps. Yes, it's good to see. Glad to see you.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you joining us, Angie. Thank you. And it's happy to see, we did, hear from, I think there were a couple of interviews released early this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to see Jerry's, but I did see, because it was a little bit longer on the longer side, but I was able to see Steven's interview that he did very quickly. And I kind of understand why he was in and out in a few minutes, because he kind of walked back his statement, says, I don't know if it's just me, but we kind of look like, oh yeah, we're gonna see where we're gonna be at, and this, that, and the third. And even I saw just some quotes from Jerry's interview, but he's saying that he's not looking to free agency to fill voids and things like that. And he's saying, well, I wouldn't call us close to or better than the Eagles and things like that. So just what's some of your thoughts on what our front office had to say, this, or didn't have to say this past week, because we know Jerry was quote unquote kind of mum in this past weekend. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on what the front office is? Some of their actions that they, made so far, their actions, but also, what some of their words are saying.
Yeah. So, I and I tweeted today that it's funny that you bring up actions versus what they're saying, because I was like, at this point, we got to pay more attention to what the front office is doing than what they're saying, especially Jerry.
Yes.
He even says stuff where it's like, he says stuff sometimes that like fans still get upset about, but when you actually listen to Steven, like he actually does give you like a honest view of his direction for the team, what we plan to do. He was talking about alignment, and you can't keep doing the same stuff, expecting different results. So see, that type of stuff is encouraging to me. Versus you have somebody like Jerry who comes out. First of all, I was low-key hoping, I was like, Jerry's not talking. Maybe he's contemplating retirement. But lo and behold, look at him today on Zach Martin's day. Shout out to Zach Martin. We got to give Zach Martin some shout. He did finalize his retirement from the NFL today, which is, sad, because, it's just another one of our great legends who, unfortunately, did not get to win a Super Bowl here. But nevertheless, he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. But anyway, getting back to Jerry, coming out talking about, we're not looking to free agency to fill any holes, because we don't have any holes, and no, we didn't need to sign Dak and CD earlier to to be active in free agency, just saying all types of stuff. It's like everything Jerry's do is just
Right.
everything. I hate this.
Man.
Like at this point,
Seriously.
and I had joked and I said at this point, Jerry is no longer my GM. Shout out or my owner. Steven is my owner and Will McClay is my GM. And
Right.
I'm not paying attention to nothing Jerry says. Shout out to Big Game James because he been on this like I ain't paying attention to nothing that 80-year-old man is saying. And
Right.
I'm about to follow suit because I'm like, literally, Jerry, we listen to Will McClay, we listen to Steven, we listen to Brian Schottenheimer. They all are talking about alignment, how we're aligned, how we're doing all this. And then here
Right.
you go saying dumb shit. So it's like at this
Right.
point, like I'm just tired. I'm tired of Jerry and his antics. And it's like when you look at what the front office is doing, then that's how you can start to see basically the tea leaves of what is expected to come. Do we know what's coming for sure? No, but the signs are telling us that they are going to be active in free agency or they're going to be active via trade or both. Because obviously you signed Osa early as hell. This is probably the earliest they've ever signed one of their guys because usually besides the last year, where we literally didn't sign nobody till September, but or late August, September, but they will sign their guys like the first week of free agency, which is like March 14th or 15th. But they obviously signed Osa the week before free agency even starts.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. Then on top of that, they already started talks with Micah. Remember with Dak and CD, they didn't start talks with those guys till August.
Bro, we didn't hear a whiff. We barely heard anything.
Right.
Even, only thing we heard before OTAs or even the draft was all in. That's all we heard. All in. Oh yeah, we don't go all in.
But they weren't doing anything. Y'all
Right.
weren't doing anything. Y'all remember like last year at the combine, they weren't talking to agents. They weren't calling nobody. They were doing absolutely nothing.
Right. Yeah. The fact that they didn't even meet with agents last year was
Right.
kind of,
They didn't even meet with agents last year. You know what I'm saying? Compared to this year, they were meeting with agents. They were talking to people at the combine. Obviously, they got OSA deals done. You know, it was rumored that they were also talking to D-Law's agent and talking to J. Lou's agent. So then, you know, recent signings, we signed back Wanye, we signed back Brock Hoffman, we signed back CJ Goodwin. So they are making Turpin too. Yes, Turpin too. So it's like they're making all of these moves, but before free agency, that's a good sign because they don't really do that. That's not something that they do. They surely not getting big contracts like Osa done before free agency. They don't do that. And then on top of that, pulling the triggers on CD's contract and Dak's contract, which
bring
now
up that much cap space.
Right. It's like, okay, Jerry, if you're not gonna do anything, why the hell y'all freeing up 50? We have like 56 million, which is eighth. We're now eighth in the league in total cap space.
Right.
And second in the NFC East behind the Commanders, who have 60 million. So they only got like 4 million ahead of us. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're saying this, but it's like, dude, what y'all are doing is very contrary to we're not doing anything in free agency. We're not looking at anybody. It's like, okay, if that's the case, then why are you doing this stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, I love the points you brought up. I mean, it's kind of like you know, they say don't let your left hand know what your right hand doing, but it's like the right and left hand just don't know what each other doing. Like you said, it's like Steven is saying one thing, Jerry is saying, well, you know, Jerry is saying one thing. Steven, Will McClay, you mentioned Shotty, you know, even the head coaches, they just all seem like they're on the same playing field. You know what I mean? You know,
right.
Yeah, it just seemed like Jerry just came out of nowhere, just came to just start knocking stuff down. No, I ain't looking for. We ain't looking for nothing. We good.
Exactly. I wouldn't say aggressive. I wouldn't say aggressive. Like, okay.
It's like now you're intentionally, you know, going against what Steven is saying. So it's like it's kind of like you're just saying something just to say something because this whole time you've been quiet, and all of a sudden you're not your one chance to speak, but the one time you do come out and say something,
you're coming out and saying stuff.
The complete opposite.
Right, the complete opposite stuff that you know would enrage the fans. But it's like the fans already are smart where they know like y'all wouldn't be making these moves if y'all are just about to sit here and do nothing.
Right.
Because when y'all did nothing, that's what y'all did last year. And it was clear y'all weren't doing a damn thing.
Right.
So the fact that y'all doing all of this, it's like, okay. And again, and granted, we don't know, but it's like all the signs are pointing to. And as far as like Micah's extension, they didn't have to open up cap space to do Micah's extension.
Right.
So that's not why they're opening up the money. Jay Lou's contract and Chauncey and whoever else they bring back as free agents of our guys is not going to even be close to that amount of money. So it's like
Right.
we're
They're
just
only
opening up the
like,
money door.
and they only get a million. I think Wanye, Tyrus is on with $1 million.
Right, right.
Hoffman
All of them
either.
contracts is a million, a million, a million. So it's like,
Right.
be for real. Like clearly, y'all are going to go. Y'all are going to be exactly. That's why I said just listen to Steven. Listen to
Right.
Steven. Listen to Will McClay. Listen to Shoddy. Don't listen to Jerry at this point because
Yeah.
at this point it's like, okay, I see what you're doing, Jerry. Like you've been doing the same shit last off season where it was like you and Steven, you would say things and then Steven would have to come back behind you and clean it up. And
Hmm.
it's like clearly this is a shtick for you. This is your MO, Jerry. Like you like to say
Yeah.
stuff to stir shit up in the media, getting clicks and views, but it's no indication of what you're really gonna do because you was acting like a hard ass. Dak needs to show us, and he needs to do this, and then you made him the highest paid quarterback in the league. So it's like
Right.
this. I'm not paying attention. I think this is all Jerry. It's just an act. This is what he does. Like, but if you know
Yeah.
who's really in control, it's really Steven. So listen to Steven. And now he's co-owner now, so it's like listen to Steven over
Yeah.
Jerry because Jerry just be talking. He just be talking.
Yeah. And just to add a couple nuggets there, I think I mentioned wheat. I was actually kind of shocked that not shocked that they brought back wheat, but that we heard something on wheat versus hear something on Chauncey Golston first. I thought that maybe they were bringing back Golston as far as the depth piece. I do like
Right.
Tyrus Wheat. I don't feel like his production and maybe his progression has been as much as Golston. I would love for Golston to come back too. I'm not sure what his cap hit would be looking like if they were offered him.
Right. I think what it is that with the Wheat contract, the Wanye contract, and the Brock Hoffman contract, I think all of those were like restricted free agents. So it's like basically they just had to like pick up an option or something like that. I think that's basically what
Okay.
they did. Compared to Chauncey, he didn't have Chauncey is just an unrestricted free agent. So same thing with J. Lou, to where they really have to work out an actual deal if they're going to extend them. And I think
Okay.
both of those guys, like J. Lou, I know J. Lou for sure is looking for like a real contract
Yeah.
compared to what he's been signing for, just a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah,
I
a
think
couple years here and there, and
right,
there.
he's
Yeah.
signing for a real contract. I think he's because I think he's played that way and he deserves to get an actual contract. And
Yeah.
then with Chauncey too, like what Chauncey did last this past year cannot be ignored. I mean, he's definitely one of the most versatile pieces on our line. I feel like he really fits Eberflus's scheme as he's how tall is Chauncey? I think he's like 6'6", 6'5". That's an Eberflus type. He can play outside, inside. So it would make sense to me, like, don't
It's
resign
not so
him.
much, and it's not so much pressure. You don't have to wait for him to, improve or for him to improve his game or anything like that. He's not so
Right.
much pressure on him. I think it's his fourth year, I believe he's in.
Right, yeah, this would be if we resign him, he'll be going into his fifth year
Oh,
because
fifth
remember
year,
Micah, Osa, and
same year.
Chauncey, right? They were drafted the same year, so
Okay.
it's like go ahead and resign Chauncey. I don't want to resign D Law. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
appreciate D Law everything he's given us, but I think it's like time to hang it up, brother.
Yeah.
We got other pieces, younger guys who stay healthy,
Yeah.
who've been on the bench and they're ready to go. They got
Yeah.
low tread on their tires and they're good players. So it's like,
Yes.
we can sign Chauncey back for dirt cheap. So it's
Yeah.
like, let's sign Chauncey back compared to D Law because D Law is a
Placeholder.
a high price. What'd you say?
No, I was gonna say because I feel like we're saying the same thing. I feel the same way about D-Law because I feel like he would kind of stop the progression of the young guys in the room because we have a lot of guys behind them that need time.
Right, exactly. Like people like Marshawn Nealon and stuff, and Chauncey Golston. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, and then if we draft another edge, then you're gonna be taking up the space. It's like it's time to go, buddy.
Pam
Like,
Williams. You know what I'm saying?
I freaking forgot about
Yeah.
that. Bro, we got
Yeah.
young depth that needs to be playing. I'm sorry, D-Law. I appreciate everything you
Yeah,
done for us, but it's time for us to move on. I wish we could have traded you, but obviously we waited, let your contract run out. So it looks like you just gonna have to walk off into the sunset. But
yeah,
so be it. But I really feel like we need to sign these young guys who are ready to go. They just been stewing on the bench. And I feel like we got so many like young legs that are also in there entering into, their prime almost, like Osa, like Chauncey and stuff like that. So it's like get it
yeah.
going. Like get these guys re-signed and let these older guys go. Let them go play for the Bills or who. I don't care who
Yeah,
he plays
no,
for.
for real. I mean, facts, sis. I 100% agree with you. That's really why I brought to you today for our show today, because I really want to talk about the makeup of our line, because we have a lot of youth, waiting behind, and that was kind of, we talked about, talked about that a couple of years ago and last year, kind of the wall of guys, the wall of starters, were kind of,
Mhm.
I don't want to say that, terms holding back, but, of course the starters taking up those reps, the young guys only really have chances if, knocking on wood, someone gets hurt or
Right.
late in the season, things like that. But like you said, with it kind of built up over the years. So now that we're actually had the opportunity to be able to have these guys play, like you said, I
Mhm.
definitely appreciate D Law and everything he's given. Kind of like the same thing with Martin. It
Right,
kind of
with
sucks.
Zach Martin, exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, it's really essentially, in my opinion, like I don't want to see D Law retire, and I don't want to see him play with another team. But just right now, where our room is right now, I really want to see these young guys,
Right,
really see
exactly.
what they can do. I'm really excited to see Nealon, just because of what we've seen so far. Nealon stepping up. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And
like these guys are stepping up, but they need the
yeah,
reps, and they can't get
yes.
the reps because if we re-sign D-Law, he's the starter
Yeah, absolutely,
automatically.
and that's what kind of held I had my reservations about free agency. Like Khalil Mack, or even
Um,
I believe Chase Young, I think his name, with the Saints, or even bringing in better guys like that. Even Garrett, I was pumped about Garrett, but I'm like, Garrett's going to want to come in and be a starter, which he definitely deserves. It definitely deserves to go to a championship team, playoff team, but. That would definitely, he would definitely hold back some of the young guys in our room if we were able to go after a Garrett.
Absolutely, and I mean with Miles Garrett, I'm sorry, but I'll push them off a cliff. But
I'm with you. Yeah.
off a cliff with Miles Garrett, but still, it's like Miles Garrett, D-Law.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
So it's like, and I feel you, since like if you bring in other guys like a Chase Young or something like that, those are guys where these are like former big names where I feel like front office would be trying to like push them into a lineup. And it's like, well, what if Chase Young is not as good as Marshawn Nealon? What if Chase Young is not as good as Chauncey Golston? But we're forcing him into the lineup because front
Right.
office is paying him all of this money. So I
Yeah.
feel like in the D line room, like just draft that position. If you want to add something, I would draft it. I'm not really worried about filling that position in the free agency.
Yeah.
We talked last week about people that we would like to add in the free agency, and we talked about D line, some defensive tackles like Jonathan Allen, like Milton Williams, and then we talked about some cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Those are really, and then also receivers. What we can talk about today, after we talk about basically the state of our um, offensive line and defensive line, and basically, should we try to add to those pieces through the free agency? Do we need to add through the free agency, or should we just try to see if we want to add depth there? Uh, Draft.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, let me
What's up,
see.
Tyrone Church? Appreciate you.
Yeah, and I see what he said about J.K. Dobbins. That's something I talked about with my dad, actually. Some free agent running backs. J.K. Dobbins.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Free agent running backs as well. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, they decided not to bring back Rico. There's other guys out there. Actually, I think I still have it, the free agent window up on the side. But I think Aaron Jones is a free agent again this year. Now I know,
Right.
I think he got kind of beat up last season. With the Vikings, and I mean that's definitely a tough division to play in. But
Mhm.
I think he got really really beat up last season. So I'm not sure if he's going to be a viable free agent. But I'm not shunning him, because I love Aaron Jones. He definitely plays tough, but I'm just not sure if he can. I think it was his hip that he hurt last season.
Right.
So. I think it was a pretty serious
Depends on his
injury.
skill. Same thing with like people like Nick Chubb and stuff like that. Which Nick Chubb, he didn't come
Yeah,
back to like the very. They slow cooked him. So he should be good
Yeah.
in good shape. I am open for getting another veteran running back that's better than Rico.
Yeah.
So I've heard that the front office is interested in bringing back Rico, but I mean they haven't offered him a contract or whatever yet. And
Yeah.
I think they're probably gonna let somebody like Rico, D Law, Chauncey. I think all of those guys will probably test the free agency, and then maybe
Yeah.
they'll see if they come back to them with a contract that they can match or something like that. Because I saw a quote today where they actually asked Steven about like, are y'all gonna offer? I think it was D Law, Chauncey, and J. Lou and Rico like contracts basically before the free agency starts, and Steven
Yeah.
just was like, not all of them. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know who specifically. They're like, let's try to get this guy. Probably J. Lou, I would say they'll probably try to get signed before
Yeah.
everybody else. But I think the other guys, I think they'll let them hit the free agency and then just kind of go from there. Is what I think they're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, just I think looking at some of the pieces that we have in some of these rooms, I think I mean, and I'm surprised, that they'll let
You know,
Rico. That's surprising because say again.
He's in the chat.
What's good? How you doing? Yeah, this week definitely ain't coming back. I mean,
I hope so. I hope he's not coming back. But
yeah, I mean,
I
I'm
don't
not,
know.
I'm not, I'm not
Maybe
jumping up and down for it, but I mean, shout out to Rico. He might be able. I think I heard it on Talking Cowboys. He might be able to, because actually, first of all, shout out to Saquon Barkley getting that contract. I think it said he's like
shout
the
out to
first.
Saquon.
I think
Yeah.
it said he's the first running back to get $20 million a year. So
Yeah,
of course that's going to affect.
we gave
That's
him a
going to
bag.
affect.
He deserved it. He deserved it.
Yes, yes, absolutely, and I'm happy for
He
him.
won that Super Bowl for him. So it's like, well, he
Yeah,
didn't win the Super Bowl, but he got him to the Super
he
Bowl.
got them. Look, carried them there and dropped them
Yeah,
off. So he said
exactly.
he waited outside. He said, "Look, yeah, y'all,
Exactly.
y'all hit me up when y'all win.
Exactly.
All
So
right,
he
so just send
deserved
me
his
my
bag.
ring."
He deserved his bag.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Looking at his career and just what he's been through, what he's accomplished. What I'm saying, with the Giants, although they weren't the greatest team, when he was able to kind of transfer over to his division rival, what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
be able to succeed like that in the first year that you go somewhere else. But of course, behind the line, of course, behind the, with a great run game, with a decent coaching staff, shout out to him and what he's able to do because. Running backs don't just get 2,000 plus yards every,
Right.
with the help
That's
of everybody
true.
else. So,
That's true. That's true. He deserved
you
it,
know what I'm
but
saying?
like,
So, yeah. And shout out to Andre Mosley coming in as
yeah, what's
well.
up, Andre? Glad to see you.
Yeah.
I'm definitely for if we can upgrade these positions and then like the contracts are the same, like J.K. Dobbins, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones versus Rico. It's like, okay, those
Yeah.
three guys are better than Rico. So it's like you go with the better veteran. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have
Right.
to just always let's just re-sign, quote unquote, what we call the our guys philosophy. Let's just re-sign our guys. It's like, no, you can get better. You can get better. And if you can get better, then get better. It's really that's it. It's really
Yeah, because even to some other names on here, like I'm kind of glancing at the list right now. I see Najee Harris, like I mentioned Aaron Jones. There's Kenneth Gainwell on here, so it's not of course the running back free agency doesn't look like last season. I'm saying, but there are some names. It's no slight to Rico. He was undrafted, but there's some other names that even last year when we brought in Dalvin Cook, we thought that Dalvin Cook was a better name at the time than Rico Dowdle, right? So there are some names that they could just bring in for camp bodies, kind of have these guys kind of. A shout out to Luke coming through as well, another content creator, always showing this love. Appreciate you, man. Really appreciate you.
Yeah.
But yeah, just look. Yeah, go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that I think that this free agency, because remember last free agency was like the running back holy grail, basically.
The lottery, yeah. For real.
This year, the wide receiver is the holy grail, because you see all those.
Yeah.
I don't know if I liked it or bookmarked it, but there's a shit ton of veteran wide receivers on the market. You're talking about Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf,
Diggs,
Stephon Diggs. Like this is what you want to get. These are guys where it's like they not in their prime, but they still are valuable assets and definitely can come over here and help your team and be a number two. So
Exactly,
this
exactly.
opens
Especially
a
when you
whole
have,
door for
especially
wide
with
receivers.
as many young guys as we have trying to wait from them to develop. We can bring in a well-established guy that kind of
Exactly.
help that along.
Exactly. What's up, Stephen White? Glad to see you.
Shout out to Steven. Yeah,
Exactly.
Chris Godwin as well. I forgot. I know he's coming off a really bad injury, but yeah, Chris Godwin.
Oh
His
shoot,
name
I
is in
forgot
there as
about this.
well.
What I'm saying is like this is you the Cowboys got to get one of these wide receivers because I
Yeah.
feel like don't deadlock yourself into I've got to get a wide. What's up, Philly? You don't want to lock yourself into any position. That's why you need to, regardless of what Jerry's running his mouth about, we need to
Mhm.
fill these holes so that we can go into the draft BPA, BPA.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're bringing up the list. I mean, this is
Yeah.
I would I would go after Chris Godwin. I would give Devontae Adams a contract.
For real.
I'm all for bringing. I would bring Amari Cooper back. Look at this. Look at this list. Stephon Diggs, Marquise Brown.
Right, Hollywood Brown. Like I know, and he. I think he got back
He
late last
hurt.
season too.
Right, he got hurt and then he came back like for the Super Bowl. So he's
Yeah.
having now. Christian Kirk, like, come on, like, look at this list.
Sis,
Diana
I wrote this down. De'Ami Brown.
Brown.
Right, and he was drafted 2021.
Right, so he's a young guy who was going off
Yeah.
for what's his name for
Dan Quinn.
Jaden the top of the quarterback Jaden
Oh,
Daniels.
yeah.
So Mike Williams, Elijah Moore. Many people was high on Elijah Moore coming out. Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, Palmer.
Deontay Johnson intrigues me, even though people say he's a locker room cancer. But
Yeah.
I was like, but how's his play been? I feel like he haven't even played because every team is like
He was bouncing around a lot last season. Yeah.
like everybody just kept cutting and picking him up. So I was like, when the last time this man played?
Yeah.
But Deontay Johnson, he was good once upon a time. I don't know if he's washed or just, like I said, locker room cancer where he just can't get on the field. But
Yeah.
like, look at all those wide receivers. I feel like Cowboys, you got to go out and get one.
Yeah, I really love that list right there, sis. And I know we're not looking for depth guys. I mean, it's not really necessarily. I don't think Palmer would necessarily be somebody we were looking for, but I love how he stretches the field. He can make those big catches.
Yep.
I think he can be like an underneath option as well. But I know we do have just bringing back Turpin. I know we're going to have guys like Brooks, guys like Topper, Mr. Reliable for Dak, underneath the routes as well. So I know we're not looking for guys like that, but I love how Palmer plays and how he doesn't really, he doesn't give up on routes as well. He kind of reminds me, they're not like the same size and stature, but he kind of reminds me of Addison for the Vikings. Just kind of, when you kind of forget about him, he just always seems like he's open. He can make those deep, down the field catches. I love how he plays.
Yeah, I mean he's the youngest on the list.
Yes,
they got up here. The rest of these guys, they're aged. We ain't gonna lie, but that's why they should be cheap and they should be right up Jerry and them's alley.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of them, like Keenan Allen, still got it. Only reason he had a down years because Caleb Williams kind of struggled. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then you got. Can you scroll up?
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Moore, that's still a young guy that you could pick up now. Would he come in here and be a wide receiver too? I don't know about that. But then you have Mike Williams, who
tall
is a great talent, but just always hurt. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to take a chance on him, like I wouldn't hate it. You know what I'm saying? I would prefer the guys ahead of him. Like I would be interested in getting De'Ami Brown.
Me too.
I think he elevated last year and think he could do better even with Dak.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk is a guy I would take a chance at.
He can stretch the field as well.
Right. Slayton, I don't know. I feel like Slayton. I don't know. I feel like I've seen Slayton
for a while.
I've seen him drop a couple balls that could have propelled Giants to a better status. So I don't know about him, but like Marquise Brown, that's a speedster, and him and Pierre close.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs, yep. Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, like, come on, guys. Chris Godwin, like, these are guys that you should take a chance on. And their injury, they're either they're older or like they're recovering from injury. So I'm like, these are guys you can get for an affordable price. They're not gonna break the bank. And even the young guys, they're not gonna break the bank because it's like you don't have no stats. Like guys like De'Ami Brown, like he just broke out last year. He been in the league for what, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, about a few years. He was drafted in 2021. I think that's the reason Quinn sent Dotson over to the Eagles, right? Because they I guess wanted to. I think they had drafted. Well, they had no. They weren't really getting a lot of use of De'Ami Brown because I think he really shot out during the
Right, they
playoffs.
weren't
So
getting no right. They weren't even really using him until Jaden Daniels got there, and all of a sudden we like, oh, okay. But
yeah,
before then, I mean, he was an afterthought. So and
yeah,
then they just signed Debo, so he's pretty much gonna walk. So it's like that's a guy that you can target. I feel like the franchise, I mean the Cowboys, you got to go out and get one of these wide receivers because again, you don't want to deadlock yourself into any position in the first round. You want to be able to just go BPA. That's when the Cowboys do best. When they're drafting for needs, doesn't always bet out the best. But when
right,
they just go BPA, and then imagine if you can go BPA and trade back.
yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Then you getting us a second round pick or a third round, extra second or extra third, or
yeah.
if you trade for
Maybe
DK
even a
Metcalf.
fourth. Maybe use one
Right,
of the
maybe
rookie
even
round
a four.
picks.
Exactly. Like you can get you a couple picks because I mean 12 is not top 10, but it's top 15. So you can definitely get some help in that area. And then when you think about trades, like okay, say we trade away an asset for Jonathan Allen or for DK Metcalf. You know, if you trade back in the draft, then you can recover that compensate that draft pick that you lost for trading for him. You know what I'm saying? I'm all for trading for DK Metcalf, but I know some people are like, why would I trade for DK Metcalf when look at this wide receiver free agency class where I don't gotta trade nothing? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm all for whatever, however the front office wants to attack it, but just get it done. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
get it.
no, I definitely agree with you, sister. And me personally, I didn't necessarily think they would attack wide receiver free agency. I figured they would go in the draft, and just because of the room, in my opinion, it's the room kind of being stacked the way it is. They have about I think 3 draft picks. Brooks, Flournoy, and dang, I'm blanking out on the last guy right now. Tolbert. Dang, I forgot about Tolbert. But yeah, they have 3 draft picks, and then they signed some futures, late last season. So I just think that with that room being kind of stacked, I would love for them to attack free agency, but with like you said, with some of these guys in the free agency class, they either asking for money or they're either coming off injury or have to work themselves back. But I would love to be able to get a guy who can kind of be like a stabilizer to allow these young guys to
Right.
still be
We
able
need
to
some
develop.
stabilizer because it's like out of all them guys you named, the only person I'm interested in is Jalen Tolbert. And we done already just not determined that he's a great player, but he's a high end wide receiver 3. We
Right.
need a wide receiver 2. That's what we need.
Exactly.
So none of
Facts.
them guys, Brooks, all Jalen Moreno, Jalen this, all of these
Right. Not Jason.
yeah.
Girl.
Hey,
No. No.
bingo.
I
I'm
definitely
sorry,
feel
nah,
you.
man. They can compete. They can compete for wide receiver 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
But we need a bona fide true number 2. And I feel like any of those free agent wide receivers that we looked at, those guys come in and they're wide receiver 2 day 1 because they're former wide receivers. Some of them are former wide receiver 1s. They've just aged. So
Right.
it's like now y'all are wide receiver 2, but that's fine for us. Or you're gonna go in the draft and you're gonna get Ted or Matt Golden or someone that can come in here right now and he's
Hmm.
gonna be a threat and defenses are gonna game plan for him on day 1.
I definitely agree with that. So do you want to go ahead and go over to the O line, or I actually just have a quick? Let me just play this quick clip by 'cause I do have a quote that I kind of got from Schottenheimer's presser over the weekend because I really think, in my opinion, kind of summarizes how he brought in the coaching staff and how he thinks that these guys on each level can kind of complement him and kind of improve his coaching skills because they brought in Eberflus who has experience as being a head coach, but Schottenheimer doesn't necessarily have quote unquote the experience. But what I do love is that he kind of said during his presser that during his time he's kind of been tracking coaches throughout his whole pretty much his whole like I'll say the last 10 years of his career, and kind of kept track of guys like Junior Adams, Clayton Adams, and even mentioned in this clip right here that I'm going to play is that the reason that he acquired Clayton Adams because he felt like he's going to be a good complement to him and his play calling. So I just want to play this quick clip and then get your thoughts on this, sis.
Okay.
The philosophy behind it. It's a great.
Let me find 345.
His foundation of teaching fundamentals. And he's been a kind of a fast riser, if you will. I remember meeting him a couple of years ago. He's coaching the tight ends here in Indy, and just walking away from the conversation before a game and being like, okay, that guy's different. And then to see the success he had in Arizona, he's a guy that I've kind of been tracking and saying, hey, if ever given the opportunity to be a head coach and being the play caller, a guy like this would complement me in some areas that I quite honestly need to be complimented. And I'll be good for him because I did this for the last 2 years with Mike. And so I think we'll work very, very well together.
And also another reason that I picked this clip is because he, once again, I brought up Mike McCarthy and just kind of I know Mike McCarthy is kind of last year and old news, things like that, but I just love the effect that he has not only on the players but the coaching. Well, I won't say coaching staff, but I'll say Schottenheimer. He's kind of mentioned him a few times. Through his combine weekend. He was helped him with his interview. We heard about McCarthy. I think helping Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, helped coach him up. During the combine, and even I think I love how Schottenheimer mentioned that he kind of learned from his past experiences with Mike. Before he wasn't bringing the coaching staff, to the combine, but now he decided to bring the entire coaching staff so that way everyone can be on the same, same, playing field, same level. Everyone can kind of, discuss the same ideas without having, any kind of, break down any delay of information. So I just love that he's kind of taken, although we kind of gave him some slack for not having the experience. We got it kind of got on the front office a little bit, but I love that even though he hasn't been in that position, he's been kind of building towards that. He's been kind of tracking the guys that he kind of maybe wanted to bring in, like he mentioned with Adams. Maybe guys that they kind of tracking along the way, and then if ever been able to bring them back, even bringing in Eberflus, a guy he's familiar with, but hasn't necessarily with, a bunch. Even Connor Riley, he hasn't worked with a bunch, but somehow, some way they've crossed paths. So I just like that he's, not only wants to, show that he can kind of take on this role, but also bringing in guys who is going to challenge him, guys who, maybe even have better ideas than him. He's not afraid to put other guys' ideas on the forefront. Just because of their experiences. Connor Riley, even over the weekend, from this in my opinion, from what I saw from his interview, he said it's kind of been like a whirlwind. They have new information and new terminology that he's kind of having to learn from coming from college, going into the pros. But I think with the transition of everyone that they've brought in, I think it's not going to be as bumpy because he has these guys in his corner to be able to help him learn, along the way. It's not going to be as much as, some guy looking at you like, oh, you may not know what you're talking about. First, you have somebody that you're familiar with, and they'll be able to help you along the way without, chastising you.
Absolutely. And I think that, Shotty has just, we've talked about this, and I've talked about this, on my solo shows about, and on Twitter about how Shotty really went about the hiring process, and how he got these coaches in here. He didn't just hire his buddies, but he got coaches in here that he feels like could actually help him and make him better and challenge him. And so clearly, Clayton Adams is a guy that's going to do that for him. Like he said, he recognized him years ago when he was just a tight ends coach in Indy. You know what I'm saying? And, the fact that Shotty had him in mind, like over all of these years, is kind of incredible. But he said that he's a coach tracker, that he's constantly watching coaches, talking to his old coach friends, finding out like who's new, who's the new guy on the block and stuff like that, that he feels like will help him. And I definitely think that what Shotty did by bringing all the coaches to the combine was a great thing because it does keep the coaching staff together. Because he said that like we're doing work in the morning and then in the evenings evening they were going to the combine together so that everybody can have a clear picture on these players, who we want, who we don't want. Nothing gets lost because maybe I didn't see this, but you did. You know what I'm saying? And so we can make sure, like the word that they've been saying, align. Make sure everybody is aligned. So it's like the whole coaching staff, all the scouts, the front office, everybody was there. Tracking and watching all of these players to make sure that they're getting the right guys in this upcoming draft. And obviously that was something that was missed with Mike McCarthy because, sometimes he would go, he wouldn't go, he sent somebody in his staff. It's like things are getting lost if the whole coaching staff is all the way in Frisco and the combine is going on. And that could explain why maybe these past two drafts, weren't necessarily great. A lot of these
Yeah,
players are coming along, but these last two drafts were kind of like slow cooked drafts where maybe the coaches did not have really a ton of input. Maybe most of those picks were based off of scouting. You know what I'm saying? And the
yeah.
coaches, yeah, whatever y'all want to go with. But I
Right,
think
right.
it's not the best way to go about it because the scouts are getting players that y'all want. That they're supposed to be getting players that y'all want that fit your scheme. You know what I'm saying? And clearly
Yeah.
balls were dropped under Mike McCarthy where things were just not getting communicated properly. So
Yeah, yeah, and just like you mentioned before about Blasco not having coached running backs before, but so how do you expect a running back coach or a running back coach to be able to tell you what they want? You know what I'm
when
saying?
he
And the
doesn't, he's
player
never even coached running backs. Exactly.
exactly. So like
Right.
I just love that they mentioned that these. I don't know if it was Eberflus who mentioned it, but they mentioned that the even Junior Adams having close relationships with the wide receivers that he coached, but
Yeah.
now having more knowledge, having more inside knowledge of
Right.
these players that you could put. Even I think Connor Riley mentioned, I'm not saying he felt the way about it, but he even kind of mentioned that some of these players I even tried to recruit, but I couldn't
Mhm.
get them. So they have history on these players, even going as far back as maybe even high school. So just
Right. They
having
got a lot of right. They got a lot of
yeah,
intel on these players. I
yeah.
think Steven talked about how they even have intel on the certain free agents that they're looking at.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I think they said it came from from 6 teams that they brought in coaches from that they have
mhm,
intel on free agents. A huge point. Thank you, since I forgot
right.
about that. So I
No,
think that's
that
going to
is
be
a huge
huge.
part. That's a huge
Yes,
part, and it's just great. It's like this is why you don't go get coaches that have been out the league. Because what do
right,
they know? You know what I'm saying? Like
right,
they're sitting on the couch
right.
being
Yeah,
couch scouts and couch coaches. Is like, bro, go get some of these players and these coaches, sorry, that are actually plugged in, that are active in the league right now, that are in the college league right now, so they have
facts,
firsthand knowledge on these prospects.
facts.
It only makes sense, and I really appreciate again how Shotty went about the hiring process because I think that is really going to work wonders. Because it's like for once, we don't know how the season gonna turn out, but we actually have real coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
real coaches with real pedigree and not these are my homeboys or these are either it's the coach's homeboys or it's the Joneses homeboys. It's
right,
like
right.
bring someone else in here so that we can have new ideas and thoughts so that we can get better. We want to get better, not
Yeah,
say the same. And it has felt like our offenses under Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy were just very, very outdated. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
very outdated. So we've had outdated coaches for the past 15, 15 years.
At least,
So
at
it
least.
was right at least 15 years. So it's like,
Yeah.
bro, we need to get better. We need to get innovative and we need to stop doing these retreads.
Yes,
So
facts,
I'm
facts.
glad that we're not
Or at
doing
least,
that.
or even now, I know we even doing partly a retread. Bringing back Eberflus, bringing back guys who have been here
Right.
before. But I like that like these guys have had time outside of the organization, and then
Right.
come back
Exactly.
and bring in the information that they've gained over the years. I mean, it takes time for for people to grow and mature, just naturally over time. So just being in other organizations, and even bringing in college coaches, they have that experience, and even coaches or even players that are coming into the league this last few years, this generation just in general is younger. So I think just having that relationship with those younger players will kind of translate better. Vice having, and that's not all the coaches that McCarthy brought in were old. I think they were kind of following that older
They
like
were,
mentality
right, they were
because
following because
McCarthy had that right.
McCarthy had that mentality and he was also they only in the league because of McCarthy. You know what I'm saying? So they don't question him or, tell him, and I'm sure they probably did try to tell him like maybe we should do it like this or whatever. But at the end of the day, like this is the Mike McCarthy show, so they got to do
Exactly.
this compared to what they want. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly, and maybe that's what and now now that off season's kind of going, we're kind of seeing more into that where Jerry was talking about Schottenheimer having deference and things like that. Maybe they they disagreed on certain things,
right,
and but McCarthy wouldn't have done a certain way, and he's the head coach. This, that, and the third. So now that he's the head coach, now we're kind of getting more of a like he said, he's going to put his own fingerprint on it. We're kind of seeing more into Shotty's identity and what he wants to see from this team. And,
Exactly.
and shout out to JC Cowboys Network, and shout out to the Lunatic, just
What's
one of
up?
the greatest followers in this community. Really appreciate you guys
Absolutely. What's
coming
up,
through and
JC?
showing love.
What's up, and the Lunatic? Really appreciate you guys' support.
Yes, we really do. So, as you know, our last segment for our show is going to switch over to the offensive line, and of course, we know, we pretty much have our starters. But we actually kind of talked about it a little bit last week,
Yeah.
with the Clayton items, talking about the best five we're going to start. Possibly switching. Well, I don't think we talked about this. I think we talked about Guyton possibly switching over to the right side, but Steven talked about Terrence still staying around, so we know Guyton's going to be our left tackle, and I know they mentioned during the combine Cooper Beebe possibly switching to guard, but just the way kind of Schottenheimer kind of reacted, they're thinking that he's going to end up staying at center. So I just want to kind of talk about, what the makeup of our offensive line, will possibly be going forward, and what spots we should look at for free agency, if any, because we know we do have TJ Bass, we do have Brock Hoffman, like we mentioned earlier, they brought him back. So it's a matter of,
Mhm.
are they going to have, Hoffman and BB kind of battle it out again, or vice versa, plug Hoffman in that guard, plug him in that center, they kind of have, they can, this is the
Right.
kind of time for them to do musical chairs, looking at free agency. We mentioned Will Hernandez, I believe last week. And actually, looking at the list, I actually kind of glanced over this name. I'm not sure if it's Will Fries or Will Freeze. I'm not sure how to say his name, but I think he
Mhm.
was drafted. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think it's Will Freeze. I think it's Indianapolis Colts. I believe
Mhm.
drafted in 2021. I have to look up the year. I kind of I think I forgot to write it down. I'm sorry
Okay. Was
about
he
that. But
released, or
no,
he's just going into free
yeah,
agency?
he's going into free agency. He
Okay.
signed his, I think he signed his contract in 2021, and he was hurt last year in week 5 of
Mhm.
2024, and that's when the rookie kind of stepped up. Kind of, I'm not gonna say he took his place, but the rookie did do well. So I'm not sure if Indy plans to keep him. They do have a great line. They have a great run game over there. They could keep Will around as far as being a depth piece. So I think maybe that's kind of what I'm not gonna say what I'm afraid of seeing, but maybe in this free agency we may see some of these guys kind of stick around with their team. Maybe like a Will Fries, maybe like we talked about last week, Asante Samuel Jr. Maybe he might stick with the Chargers because maybe it's home to them. So I'm not sure if Indy maybe plan to keep him as a depth piece, but I think he could be with guard being an open spot on our line. I think he played very well before his injury, and I think from what I've read, they're saying that he still should get paid regardless of the injury.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't really looked into Will Fries, but that's a name that, or a guy that I could definitely look into to see, you know, if he's a left or a right side player.
I think he played right guard. Let me look it up right
Okay.
quick. I think he played right guard, and he's only 27. You know what I mean? So he's
Right.
still
He's a young
relatively
guy. I mean,
young.
that's kind of up a Cowboys alley. It's just all gonna come down to how much he want to get paid. Like, he's looking for a big payday, because I don't know about that. But I
Right.
think, when it comes to the offensive line, I see he said Jeff Kavanaugh mocked Josh Simmons to us. I feel like at this point we need to be looking at guards. I think
Yeah.
that you can draft Josh Simmons, but the front office is going to give Tyler Guyton every opportunity to fail. So you're
Yeah.
basically going to use your first round pick on a backup. I'm kind of done drafting backups in the first round.
Thanks.
We've
Oh my
done that the
god.
past 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm kind of over it. Honestly, past 3 years, because we did it with Tyler Smith. He was a backup. Tyron got hurt, then he played. Then we drafted Mozzie, backup. Then we drafted Tyler Guyton, who was essentially a backup. Yeah, he was a backup too before Chuma got hurt. So I'm kind of tired of
Yeah.
backups. I would just
Nathan
like for
Thomas. I
us,
mean, we have yet to see what we're going to do with him.
right?
Awesome
It's like,
Richards. We have a
can
lot of
we
guys.
let's draft let's draft starters this draft. See, that's why I don't want to get locked in. I just want to draft starters and move forward from there. And I'm not saying that Josh Simmons, to be honest, I have not watched the O line, so I can't say. I know everybody's talking about him, Josh Simmons, Campbell, as well as from I think Campbell out of LSU, as well as Booker, something Booker. I think he's a guard for Arkansas or something. So for Alabama or something like that. So it's like I don't know. I haven't watched their film to say, who's the best and whatever, and if they would be BPA at a certain spot. But I'm just saying, like, let's draft stars. That's why it's like I really don't know who we saying we should get this person, da, da, da. But it's like, well, let's see what we do in the free agency first, and then we can kind of make the determination from there. It's kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah.
I want to be. I still want to be. I still want weapons in the first 3 rounds. However, if we get Devontae Adams and then we go out and get J.K. Dobbins or whoever, like that probably will change. You know what I'm saying? Because they're no longer positions of need. So it's going to be
Right.
interesting how all of our mocks, because I think all of our mocks are going to change once we fit holes from the free agency. Because
Yeah.
everybody's picking now based off of
Us not being active.
what do we need? You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? It's
yeah.
BPA, but it's also BPA/need. You know what I'm saying? Like if Trattoria is there versus Will Johnson versus uh Kenneth Grant or whatever, like if these guys are there, I'm just naming names. I don't know the rank or that. But if these
Yeah.
guys are there, then of course I'm gonna pick Trattoria. I'm gonna pick Ted because it's a position of need. You know what I'm saying? He's a high
Yeah.
quality player and it's a position of need. So I think the mocks will tweak as we feel holes. Now we don't feel no holes, and I mean it's gonna be what it is. But
Right.
and so you're looking at the free agent guards, Trey Smith, which they franchise tagged him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then Will
But
Fry, looking at him. Tevin Jenkins, I like Tevin Jenkins coming out. I don't know how good he is now. I don't know if he panned out, but I know I liked him coming out, coming out,
Yeah.
coming, to the NFL. Kevin Zeitler, he's basically like a former great guard. He may be a little bit cooked now, you know what I'm saying? But I
Yeah.
don't know. I haven't watched him. And then you got James Daniels, Mekhi Becton, which Mekhi Becton, I mean, he did a phenomenal job with Philly. I would be surprised if Philly doesn't bring him back. But I don't know. They may just let him hit the free agency and then kind of decide.
Yeah.
Brandon Scherf is another guy that I would not mind bringing back because he's also like a former great Pro Bowler type of player.
Macari too.
And then
He was
Macari.
in the list.
Okay, I didn't even know Macari, Aaron Banks, and then of course Will Hernandez, which we already talked about. Which I think
Yeah.
Will Hernandez obviously has a high chance coming here or Tevin Jenkins, because I was gonna say, guys, we should probably, based off of what we just said about what Steven said about how they're looking at free agencies and getting free agents and getting special intel from these coaches. You want to look at players on teams from our coaches' former teams. So you're
Yeah.
going to be looking at Carolina, not Carolina, sorry. You're going to be looking at the Cardinals, Chicago, the
Yeah.
Jets.
You think maybe the Colts? I heard them mention DeForest Buckner. I know we're talking about defense earlier,
Right,
but
the Colts would be one. Also,
I
Chargers,
think
LA
I think
Chargers.
I think his name EJ Speed. I think over there. I think they mentioned him in free agency.
Yeah, the Saints. Like, so you want to look at where are our coaches' former teams, and then when you're looking at free agents, we are probably going to lean more toward free agents that our coaches have special intel on versus going out and getting guys that are not connected to the current coaching staff is what I think we're going to do.
Yeah.
Off base, but based off of what Steven said, I think so. Lou
No,
said
that
Jenkins.
makes 100% sense.
He said he's terrible now. Okay, why is he terrible? Is third is the off? I mean, I heard their whole offensive line in the Bears was terrible. So,
Yeah.
depending on coaching or he just ass now because that was a second round pick. So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe a change of scenery will help, but
Yeah. And another guy I knew we were talking about defense earlier, but I meant to say this last week when we were talking about defense. But Divine Diablo, I know they were talking about Spillane as one of the linebackers over
Yeah,
there with the
Devon
Raiders.
Diablo, he was a name. He was a name.
Yeah,
I don't know
I,
if he's good or not.
yeah. I think I don't know about this last year,
Name,
but I know the last couple of years he was one of the top tacklers on the Raiders. So I think
right?
I think he could just be like I said,
He's a
a
Michael
name he
Clark.
could be a camp body to come in and compete.
Right, exactly. I agree with that. Some of these names, like Devon Diablo, he says Chicago looking to upgrade. That means he's
Oh
terrible, though, Lou. I don't know. Do a
yeah,
breakdown, Lou. Shout out to
he
Lou.
can
Y'all
help
know
us.
Lou, the king of the breakdown. So
Yeah,
if
facts.
Tevin Jenkins is cooked, and honestly, I could just go look at the all 22 and see if he's cooked or not. But honestly, I feel like the Bears was kind of terrible. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think. Do we want to talk more about the basically the? Did we talk about the D
Actually,
line?
well, we talked about defensive edge, and then I think last we talked about then looking at defensive tackles. I think I think we
We
have
did
enough.
talk about
I was
that
gonna
last week. Okay,
say,
go
say
ahead.
again.
No, I said we did talk about the defense last week. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say I do have a quick question. Before we end, do you think we should look at depth for the left tackle? 'Cause I know we have Guyton over there, but I know we have. I think I would assume Awesome Richard because he played some reps of there last season. But do we think we should go deeper at the depth as far as left tackle or tackle in general?
We need to go depth. I think we need to go depth at right tackle because we have not had a backup right tackle on this team in a long time. You know what I'm saying? It's been
Still,
years.
since Steele was the backup, I
Right.
think.
Exactly. It's been a long time since we've had a right tackle backup. And I do think that we need to fill depth at the right tackle position. That's what I would look. That's what I would draft. Everybody talking about left tackle. I'm not really worried about Tyler Guyton. I also have Awesome, who's going to be going. Going into year 4. It's like
Yeah,
if you want to get another left tackle, but when you're looking at needs on the offensive line, you should be looking at right guard to fill that hole because Brock Hoffman is not a true right guard. And it sounds to me like they don't really want to move BB unless they absolutely have to. And
yeah,
when you have somebody like TJ Bass, he can play both guard positions, but he's really a left side player. So I think if you want to fill holes, you need to be looking at right guard and right tackle. Those are the two positions that I would look to fill and possibly bring depth in from free agency or draft. That's what I would be looking at. I'm tired of switching players from left to right, right to. It's like, can we just let players play
yes,
how did they play,
yeah.
please?
Yeah, and that's something that Clayton Adams even alluded to. I think last week in his interview was saying that the best. He said usually the starting five, excuse me,
They
usually
don't
stay in the
move.
same spot. Yeah,
Right.
they stay in the
The
same spot.
depth
But guys
pieces
after that,
have to be versatile. I
yeah,
think Connor Riley, he said the depth pieces have to be versatile. They got to be able to play across the line. But when you have your starters, like they should be able to be locked in a position. And I feel like with Steele, I believe that this will probably be like the last year of Steele's contract before we would have to re-sign him again. Maybe I
yeah,
don't know. Did Steele sign a 5-year? If he signed a 5-year, then nah, I'm tripping. But I think you definitely want to bring a little bit of competition for Steele. Uh, and obviously with that right guard position, you got to bring competition there because again, Brock Hoffman is not a true guard. He can play it, but he's not a true dominant guard.
yeah,
And he's not and then like I said, TJ Bass can play both. Awesome can play a little bit of right guard, but these aren't true right guards. I feel like you need to bring a true right guard and a true right tackle to the team, whether through free agency, trade, or the draft. That's what I
yeah.
would say, as far as the state of the offensive line.
Yeah, and kind of light some fire underneath still. And I think that's partly the reason why Guyton is already. They mentioned Guyton already being in the weight room. I mean, we kind of saw it last year, like when they brought out Austin Richards, when they brought out Chuma Edoga, for the little bit
Mhm,
of time that Guyton was missing. And he was
mhm.
like the next week, he was like, oh no, I'm good. No, I'm not injured. I'm good. I'm getting right back out there. And and even later in the season, we saw him improve a little bit. So I like that he's taking it serious. Right back. Even last year when he was drafted, he was right back. He's right in Dallas, getting to work. He got the Airbnb and got right back to work. So to see him in the weight room already, already attacking the offseason is I think it's hopeful to see, and I think that'll help this game progress even further.
Absolutely, and like we were just Guyton. I really think Guyton's gonna be fine because of the following reasons. One, his work ethic is insane.
Yeah,
This is the guy from the day after he was drafted. He was down here training, working with Duke. I think that him getting hurt kind of uh set him back a little bit. But even through the season, like he began to settle. His main issues were two things: the penalties, and because of he just not in his grown mind. That's why he's in the weight room, because he just was too weak. His lower body was too weak. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't
yeah,
have that ability, to style off the best. He was facing the best pass rushers in the league
yeah,
after week. So I think people gotta just calm down on Guyton. Um, I don't. We drafted him to be our future, and again, he was already showing progress. The only issue with
yeah,
Guyton was those pre-snap penalties, really. So I'm like, if he could get, we could limit the pre-snap penalties, and I'm not worried really about Tyler Guyton
yeah,
uh being able to perform. You know what I'm saying? He just obviously got to stay healthy. Um, so that's how I feel about Guyton. And then shout out to Doughboy. Yeah, Doughboy. We already talked about that at the beginning of the show.
yeah.
You can rewind it and go and see our thoughts on that 100%. But appreciate your support in talking to us in the chat.
Yeah, and just some final nuggets from this past weekend before we get out of here. Shout out to Brandon Aubrey. Prayers to him. I think they mentioned earlier today he actually had shoulder surgery. So they say
Oh
he should
wow, I
be.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was Todd. I'm not sure if it was Todd Archer or Machodi who tweeted out earlier that they said he had shoulder surgery. So, but they said he should be back. By the start of off season. Well, I don't know about off season activities or OTAs, but he should definitely be back in time for camp. And also shout out to Jimmy Johnson. They said that he retired from Fox Sports. I think I think everyone knew from I think it was the Super Bowl that when he was broadcasting, they did the AI video and things like that. So I think he kind of saw it coming. But shout out to him, for being on TV for so long, and also low key speaking to the locker room, saying at times in need, kind of trying to fire the guys and saying what they needed to do, but I love that they're showing love to him. I love how much love that he received on that network because they really did seem like a family environment. I love that. I always love seeing Jimmy's emotions. When they did the door knock. Saying when they did the AI video. So I just love because he really just wears his heart on his sleeve. And I just love how much he cares for our organization, and I'm glad that Jerry finally put him in the Ring of Honor, and I'm glad that he got his recognition on TV as well, and hopefully he enjoys his retirement. I didn't see the letter that Jerry wrote to him, but I did see that Jerry did put something out for him. So
Absolutely. Shout out to Coach Jimmy Johnson. One of, I mean, Hall of Fame coach, the best. It's only him and who's our first?
Landry,
Tom Landry. Yeah,
yeah,
them two. The best. Nobody has nobody has reached the Super Bowl since those two. So
right,
we'll see. What Shotty do. Hopefully Shotty can be all that we hope for, but it's gonna take the front office really giving him the support,
yeah,
and not trying to control him and let him coach. So we're really gonna have to see how the front office allows him to coach and maneuver his first couple of years. 'Cause
yeah,
I do believe if you allow Shotty to coach, that he will do a good job. But if you're going to
yeah,
be trying to control, shout out to Boss Cowboy who did a show called Predetermined Outcomes. That's really what has killed our team, which is front office making decisions and saying this is who's going to play, this is how we're going to do this is how we're going to do that. And when we just want you to let it play out. This is football. It's competition. So let the competitors compete and let the best man win. Let the best man win. That's what I would say. But we really appreciate you guys rocking with us today.
Yes.
I feel like this was a good show. Just kind of going over Osa getting signed and Jerry's comments and Zach
Yeah.
Martin and the free and more free agents and things that we can look at and draft needs and all of this type of stuff. So
Yeah.
this is kind of like what we're going to be doing for these next few weeks. Obviously, free agency starts next week, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think exactly next week. Yeah.
right, free agency starts next week. So who knows what we'll be reporting, talking about on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate y'all. Like the video, share,
Please.
subscribe, please, and donate to our cash apps.
Yes. Yes. If you're
If you're
feeling.
feeling generous, please donate. Thank you.
Yeah, like Star said, thank you guys so much for joining us. Yeah, I feel like we had a great show too. Shout out to the Cowboys for being active. I mean, this time last year, we would have been telling y'all that Jerry said that they was all in and, boom, show's over. But we was able to bring you guys some great news and, just some things from the combine. So I'm excited. My final words from here. Shout out to Boss Cowboy, Law Nation, OC, Big Game James for the final word. My
Mm-hmm.
final word tonight is that I'm happy to see what this coaching staff is looking like so far. I love the message that they're trying to send to the front office.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, like Star said, look, hopefully it's getting through to Steven. Like we just got to get through the one. I think if we can get through the one, he might be able to kind of twist and turn Jerry's arm. And who would have thought, Star? I think this time last year we talked about how we were. I say it for me, kind of afraid of what Steven would do once he kind of took over the Cowboys. But I don't think I ever thought I would be thinking that we need to be listening to Steven instead of
Yeah.
Jerry. So hey, if Steven
Well,
is in
times
the
have
right
changed.
mind,
Yeah, them play. It seems like Steven is changing. He's more in tune with
yes,
the fans. I don't know what Jerry is just still doing his old way Al Davis type of tactics, and we're just
right.
tired of it. We're just
Look,
tired of
maybe Steven knows that he the one that got to deal with it. Jerry, like, look, you have to deal with it when I'm gone. Steven's like, look,
it.
I ain't putting it with the mess you gonna leave behind. Shoot.
Exactly.
So I love it. I love it. Like Stephen Jones,
Mhm.
keep doing what you're doing, but add some moves behind it. Okay, add some moves
That's
behind it.
the
That way we
moves.
can
That's
get
what I'm saying.
excited.
Steven really does some moves. The fan base will rally behind him. The only reason why
Yeah,
we don't rally behind him is because we think that he's he don't want to make moves. He don't want to be aggressive. He's always talking
right.
about salary cap this, and we only got
Yeah.
this many resources.
Yeah, he said
You
he
know,
said it today. He went back. He's actually said the word salary cap. So that's when I was like, ooh, like,
I didn't even listen to the interview today, but
oh
regardless, get it done, Steven. If you get
yes,
it done, the Cowboys fans will begin to rally behind you versus Jerry. The only
right,
reason why some Cowboy fans, I know I'm not, but some Cowboy fans still hold on and say, Jerry's the better one because of the moves that the aggressive moves that he used to make, back in the '90s, but
right,
in the early 2000s. But it's like Jerry is not that person no more. And at this
right.
point, he's just annoying. He's just like your annoying, you know, 80-year-old grandpa. Half of the time, it's
Just
like,
keep
"Grandpa,
talking and
what
talking.
food are you talking about?" But anyway,
Right.
we appreciate y'all so much. And we will catch y'all next week.
Yes,
Hopefully.
love you guys. Love
Love
you, Cowboys
y'all.
Nation. See you guys next time.
See ya.